Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about Hollywood movie flops and why these movies are flopping. Why they're dying on the ass at the box office, and what could be done about it. But also the analysis that Hollywood pretends, at least, to put on this. Why is it happening? Well, we just don't know why. It must be because of all the fucking Nazis out there. Nazis everywhere. Well, if there are the Nazis, well, why are you not making movies for all these now? And so on. So I mean, it's absurd. Now, it's pretty obvious, I think, to anybody looking at why the movies are flops, is that they're desperately trying to hard push an ideological social engineering message instead of entertaining the public. The role of movies is, or was once, to entertain. Now it's been turned over completely as a propaganda delivery system, and the Hollywood studios are pretending that, well, we don't know why people aren't coming to watch them. Now I'll use an example. I'm pretty sort of broad-minded here, but I don't like the message pushing, and I do want to be entertained. I want to have a good script and good acting, good plot, good directing, and I'll come and happily look at these movies if indeed they are entertaining. And like 20 odd years ago, the amount of entertaining movies was on a decline, but now it's hard to find any. They all seem to be either very badly done and mostly pushing a message. Now, I noticed with interest that redoing of The Running Man, that 87 or 88 Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Now, it wasn't a great movie, but it was fast paced. It was action packed. It was you could hardly describe Arnie as a great actor. The chick love interest that Arnie had was a Hispanic chick. I think she was from Venezuela or something like that. But she was a beauty queen, so she'd been, a swimsuit model and a beauty pageant contestant. She's pretty hot, and so that kind of worked there. Even though I winced a little bit at putting a Mexican chick in there, or a Hispanic Latino chick in there. I remember at the time I went a little bit, thought they're pushing that. That's not something you would see naturally and normally. Nonetheless, you look past it. She was pretty hot, so you look past it. And otherwise, the movie was good. I think there was only one black guy in it, actually. So the rest of the people were white, and it all seemed feasible. And the talk show host was a sleazy white guy, and I thought the movie was all right. Was it a great movie? No, but was it entertaining? Yeah. And I saw it at the movie theater back in the day, and I've seen it a couple of times since. I think I might have got the video back in the day, or the DVD or something. Now, The Running Man, the remake of the Running Man movie, I was thinking, I might watch that. And given the timeline in between cinematic release and then coming out on DVD is shortened considerably, particularly if it doesn't do that well in the box office. I was it was on my list of things to see until I saw one thing. One thing was enough to put me off. They've cast his girlfriend or wife as a black chick, very plain looking black chick, by the way. In fact, I would declare unattractive black chick. And he's got the mixed race kid and that sort of stuff. So that instantly put me off. Not because I care, by the way. It's still possible for people to fall in love and get together. That doesn't mean those things can't happen. But the amount of relationships, in a guy like that in those circumstances, and he's a pretty good looking, fit dude and everything, that he would decide to take up with an ugly black chick. That's not right. That he would take up with a black chick at all would be surprising. The amount of relationships that cross the racial lines, there are very few. So it's not representative of anything. And if you look at the amount of black people in the movie, they're clearly pushing the racial message here. and they're pushing it hard. It's not subtle or gentle. Again, had they put the smoking hot black chick in there, they might have made that work, but they haven't. So it's a pure social engineering, propaganda, messaging situation. That was enough to put me off. Well, if that's how you're going to treat the movie, if you're going to turn it into a vehicle for social engineering and propaganda, I'm straight away not even interested. I'm not even going to take it to if I see if in a year's time I see the DVD on some discount shelf for $1, I still won't get it. I'm just not going to watch it. I don't want to be socially engineering propaganda preached to. Just don't want it. Entertain me, sure, happy to do that. But if you want to declare it as this is a documentary or this is a device to socially engineer the populace, then I may look at it out of academic interest, but not for entertainment. And when it comes to Hollywood movies, I want to be entertained. And I'll come back to a couple of other things and I might even do a separate video on one of the topics. There's some videos, like so-called documentaries, doing the rounds about how successful and prominent black people in the 1960s and 70s in the United States were allegedly treated, were the evil Nazi fascist Hitler, racism that was in the United States at that time was so huge and still around, and we got to call those Nazis out, and we could sort of show how bad it was. Evil Nazi racist white people, and it's only white people, of course, being bad. So straight away, this is propaganda. Now, I looked at a few of the things. A famous, very well known singer-songwriter, black singer-songwriter. Now, he travelled around the United States doing shows and concerts, things like that. And was very well paid for it, by the way. But he'd go around as the black people. Well, when you get a successful black person, whether it be today or back then, they acquire this vast array of hangers-on and freeloaders. Whether it's Cassius Clay or later Muhammad Ali, as he became known, or others. They acquire this, and they quite like it. They quite like the idea of being a tribal African chieftain holding court with all the flunkies begging crumbs from the table and all this sort of stuff. And it ties in very much with, you see the same thing with Middle Eastern people as well. When they come to the West, they still have this very tribal way of looking at things. So they go around, and this is pre sort of airplane. This airplane travel was not really the way to go if you were doing like a series of cities and doing tours and so on. So they'd be on like a 60-seater bus or something like that. So the black artist there, maybe he's got his band members with him, which would be a few guys, maybe some backing singers, something like that. But all the rest, 40, 50 people are all hangers on. They carry a lot of alcohol with them. They're very rowdy. So they turn up so they'll purposefully pick, and they're set up to do this. They'll purposefully pick a 5-star white-only hotel in the southern states, and they'll turn up with 60 very rowdy, drunk, staggering people, very feral sort of folks here. These you wouldn't call them steeped in good manners and self-restraint. And they'll turn up, and of course the hotel manager will say, "No, you're not staying here, for goodness sakes. You'll scare away every patron we've got. You fucking racist Nazi! You're just doing this because I'm black." No, it's not because you're black, Mr. Smith. If you and your wife want to stay here, that's fine. You're a well-known, prominent person. You can afford to pay. It's no problem. But we're not having those other 60 hangers-on there that are staggering around drunk and misbehaving and generally being antisocial. We can't have that. You can stay. Well, I'm not staying if my finger that's my third cousin. So this is it, and this is Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay, as he was then, was so look, I'm the world champion boxer. I'm a great athlete, which he was, by the way. And yet there are certain hotels and places that I can't go into in the United States. What's the point of being an American citizen if I can't go into any hotel? But the same thing applies. You turn up with a fuckload of hangers-on and freeloaders that are all misbehaving acting in the most unruly manner imaginable. And the management would say the same thing. You can stay, Mr. Clay, as he was before he became Harvard Ali, you can stay, but those guys can't. And well, I'm not going if my friends can't stay. That's it, you racist, Nazi, fascist. So this is something, this is a constant message being pushed then, as indeed it still is today. Now, all those black people being put up, well, why don't, hey, Cassius, why don't you go to a 5-star white hotel in the deep south and try and book in? Yeah, and we'll be there with the cameras. We'll be ready to go. Fascist, racist, bigot, Nazi. So the whole thing was a setup. I mean, it's a stage managed bullshit. But they're actually doing the same thing today. And that's the case with trying to point out that the world is this evil, racist, fascist, Nazi, misogyny, and sort of homophobic. They're constantly pushing that sort of message, but in set up conditions, not in any conditions or circumstances or storytelling that you consider in any way organic. And on that basis, I reject these movies. Now, I think pretty much everyone, certainly that I'm aware of, would think the same way. It's a movie. Fucking entertain me, you dickhead idiot. But the idea that it must be a propaganda delivery system because we have to defeat the Nazis, Hitler. That is their primary concern, their primary purpose. And so when they say, oh, we don't know why these movies are flopping, must be because of all those fucking damn Nazis. No, that's not the reason. It's your movie is shit. You're so desperate to push the propaganda message that you're unable to focus on entertainment even for a moment. But these fanatics that are, and they've imported the fanatics to come in and make these movies, they believe we're defeating Hitler. I mean, hey, we're pushing back on Hitler here. So we're doing good work. We're the morally righteous ones, the ones that won't watch the movies and like it. They're the Hitlers. They're the fanatics. They're the fascists. Not realizing that these movie makers have themselves all become the fascists and are openly now advocating for the if they can't have the mind control factor working, advocating for the death of people who disagree with them. Yet they say the other guys are the fascists. And how did we come to this? You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.